Welcome to High-End Homes Handled Right. This is the Real Property Management Luxury Podcast hosted by yours truly, Lyndel Johnson. Today, we're going to talk about cracking the code of tenant retention. You may have a great tenant right now, and you are on the fence of, do we keep this person? Do we keep this family, I should say? Do we not renew? But that's a real good question. And, if you have a great renter at this point, why not renew? Especially if they're at the market, their rent is right where it needs to be, and they're taking care of your home. I want them today dig into really, if you do have that great family in your house and they're paying on time, what you need to do to possibly keep them there and how you make the decision, should you keep them there or not? It can be a tough question to ask, especially when, let's just say that you're renting your house for $2,500 a month, you're renting yours, and then you find out that the house next door to your house is renting theirs for $28,000. And you're like, man, I should be getting $28,000. It's the same exact house, same floor plan, same amount of rooms. We should be getting $28,000, so I'm not going to renew. Before you jump into that, here's some things that you should really think about. Let's just say it's month 10. It's the 10th month of that lease, of a 12-month lease. And you give a notice stating that, hey, you are not going to offer renewal. 2 months goes by, that tenant has moved out, and now you're actually going inside the property and you're going to tour. Unfortunately, you didn't do your due diligence and you didn't tour before this lease was up, and you notice that damages in your property is way more than the deposit that you received. Some property management companies may say they want the actual amount of a rent, so 1 month's rent for deposit. Some companies say they want 1.5. Some companies want more. While you're walking the property, you're seeing there's wall damage, there's carpet damage, there's broken items on the floor, there's tiles missing. All these things you're noticing as you're walking, and you have now hired contractors to come through, and everyone that you have, actually give you estimates, they're saying, hey, to get this to where you want it to be, it's going to cost X amount. But where's this money going to come from? And that's something that owners and investors should think about. Of course, you need to do what you need to do, your due diligence. You need to do walks, and you need to really make sure during the leasing period that you're bringing in the right family that's taking care of the property. But also, if you do walk into a situation like that, so now you're at a loss already. Also, let's just say that lease has expired during the down period of leasing. Lyndel, when is that? Well, that is sometimes when school is out. So think of it this way. When a family has small children, they want to get their kids moved in and they want to be in this new school system before school starts. Leasing is usually faster during the month going from May, June, July, August. It starts to come down. September, October, November, December, January. But most people do not want to move during the holidays. And a lot of people do not want to move, especially if they have kids, during a school season. So let's just say that your renter has moved out or their lease expired during some of those slow months. So now your home is going to be vacant longer than usual. So you're paying your mortgage for 1 month, or maybe you're paying a mortgage for 2 months now, because maybe it takes 2 months to get someone in, or 3. So now add that 3 months of a vacant house on top of what you just put in extra to get this house back on the market. That is a loss. That is a loss. That is a loss. If you have great renters, they're paying on time, and you've done your due diligence, and they're taking care of their property and your property, and you want them to stay, sometimes it's smarter to keep them, to retain them, and then, increase the rent based on what the market is at that point in time. It's really important, when you first get this renter into the property in the beginning stage, as soon as you get them in the first lease period, make sure that they're at market, above market, close to market, but in this area, in this little general area. Because what you don't want is their lease to expire and then you say, well, they're not at market, so now I'm going to increase their rent 7, 8, 9% to get to that point. A lot of renters are going to look at that and they're going to be disgusted by it and they're not going to renew unless they love where they live. And we're going to talk about that later. So once they sign that initial lease, make sure that you're at market or close to it so that when you do that renewal time and you're doing that increase, you're not doing that huge increase. Also, I think we talked about in past episodes that there are states like California that have a cap on how much you can increase during renewal. And so you got to be wary of that. There is a benefit of having a long-term tenant, just as long as you are really doing your due diligence and you're making sure that you're at the market. So now let's talk about how do you really entice that tenant to want to stay there? When in this market that I deal with at Real Property Management Luxury, we deal with luxury homes. We deal with homes that our renters are really doing well for themselves financially. They're making about 2.5 or more times the rent. And our average rent here in this market is about almost $3,000 a month. So our renters are doing well. So by saying that, they have options. They don't need to stay at your house, but you can entice them to want to stay. And the way to do that, I'm telling you, write this down. Take a pen, write this down. The answer is communication. That is the way to retain your renters. Great communication. If a renter calls and states that, hey, I have a maintenance issue, you need to respond. But not only respond, but you need to actually have an answer and make sure you find a way to fix it. If there's a problem in that property and they're saying, hey, I need someone here, make sure you answer the call at all times. Make sure you know. And when I say at all times, don't think that I'm saying, it's Sunday night at 11 o'clock in the evening and you're with your family and someone calls because the microwave isn't working and you need to respond right away. I'm not saying that at all. Okay. The times that you call, that you respond immediately are for urgent issues. I like to have our people respond anytime they say leak, smoke, fire. Those are the things that, right away we're on it. We're on it. But if they say, I have a drawer in the kitchen that's just not opening all the way, that's not a call that that I want my people to call back at the same time. But saying that, we do have a system where there's an immediate text. But what I'm saying is you do not want your tenant to go by, days without hearing from you and having some solution to their problem. Another big thing is really that maintenance piece, or, whoever you have doing your maintenance, make sure that they abide by your rules and how you do business at your company. Because when they go to the house, they're going to be the face of your property management company or the face of you, the owner. So if they're walking in the house, they're not taking off their shoes, they're bad communicators, they're not really fixing anything, they're really just patching things up and they're then kicking the can down the road, the tenant is not going to be happy. Especially if they're calling for the same situation, the same issue. Maybe they have a dishwasher's not working and it hasn't been working for the 9 months that they've been there at this property, and you've had your maintenance tech there several times, but it's never fixed. And this is not a way that they want to live. And really, this has nothing to do with the cost of the property. This could be, a property that's not really making that much money too. People are people, and you need to treat people as if, every renter was your family member. If I'm married now, if I have my wife is living somewhere or a family member, and they were treated this way, I would say, I do not want you to renew that lease. And that's how you have to think about your renter. Think about your renter as if, it was a family member. How would you want them to be treated living in that house? So you need to have positive communication strategy on how you deal with situations. And not only is it, you're communicating about maintenance and you're fixing maintenance issues, but what about things that aren't positive? Also, they're also negative. Say, for example, a tenant is late at rent. There's a way to talk to that renter that's late. You're not calling, you're jumping down the throat. Hey, where's my rent? I haven't received it. Today's the 4th. Where is it? You're a horrible person. No, it's, hey, I've noticed that you haven't paid rent this month yet. And I'm trying to find out is there anything we can do for you? How's everything going? But there's a way to communicate, show empathy, show care, but make sure that you don't pull back on your rules and your regulations. On that example I just said about rent, yes, if rent is due on the 3rd, be stern. Don't back off that, but just communicate well as if you care about their situation. Another thing that you should do is implement some type of survey system. If you now have, let's say you're a property management company and you have multiple homes throughout a city, and you have different renters everywhere, sometimes it can be difficult to keep the pulse on their needs and how they're feeling. So if you do create a survey system, that can help you. Some type of survey system that, you survey them and, when they move in, and then maybe if you want to do it quarterly, you're asking questions such as, you've moved in and how is the house based off of what you thought it was going to be like? How is the property management company? How is just overall your experience? And if you do this early enough and enough times, it will allow you to fix things that you're finding. Because even if you lose this tenant and you have a new tenant that comes in, you can use, the answers from these surveys to, better provide a product to your customer, and your customer at this point is your renter. So if you can implement some type of tenant feedback system, that can help you out in the long run. And then last but not least, have some type of competitive edge. And what I mean by that is, in the beginning, we talked about a house that was right next door that was getting more rent than yours. And that's why you thought about not renewing your current lease. If you go do a walk in your property, maybe there are some things that you can upgrade. I say this, and I wanted to say this last because this should be the last thing you think of doing. The goal should always be getting a return on your investment. And at no way do I want you to go out and to splurge on doing these upgrades, because what can happen is you can lose. Maybe the house, for example, the house doesn't need wood flooring. Maybe it needs vinyl. Maybe all appliances do not need to be upgraded. Maybe, so it's just different things you can do, but you need to be smart on what you're going to upgrade and if you're going to upgrade at all. But this should be the last thing you think about. But some of these answers, or even if you need to do upgrades, come through that survey that we talked about earlier. Maybe the renter has noticed something like, hey, this washing machine is pretty old, or this dryer is so old that it doesn't heat. So okay, we need to do a change on this. Or things like carpet. I definitely don't recommend carpets in a rental home, because eventually you're gonna have to change them out, and it's just a hassle. But suppose they're saying, hey, we've lived here for 2 years and this carpet is just dingy, we need to get rid of it. maybe that is something that you need to take care of. But upgrades, it's not a bad thing to do, but you just have to be really strategic on when and how much and just why you're doing it. And once again, that survey can help you in that. It's not an easy thing to keep your renter, but it can happen. And it happens when your renter is happy, they love where they live, and the price is right, and they trust you. So next time that you have a lease that's about to expire, just think about these things before you send out a letter saying you're not going to renew. It may be smart for you to just, renew. But once again, do your due diligence. Make sure you know what the market rate is. Make sure when you get that lease in the beginning, make sure they're where they need to be. Make sure you do your walks in the property so that when they move out, you don't get like this big issue when you walk in and you find out there's holes in the walls or something like that. Make sure you do quarterly walks. And last but not least, if you're going to do upgrades, be strategic. Once again, this is Lyndel from Real Property Management Luxury. This is high-end homes handled right. Have a great day.